Hello, listeners and viewers of the internet. Thank you for tuning in for a brand new video. It's been a while since we've done one of these, but nevertheless, thank you for coming back. I'm your host, IcyVolk, and welcome back to the #1 shit show. Today, I would like to share you guys my first impressions of Pyre by SuperGiant Games. SuperGiant Games is undoubtedly one of my favorite indie developers in the games industry. They are masterminds when it comes to creative work and video game development. They excel at providing a phenomenal musical score and a refreshing artistic direction. And they've certainly proved themselves that they can do that by releasing hit successes, Transistor and Bastion, both of which I tried out, and one of which I actually beat from beginning to end. Transistor is a game that I absolutely loved, to the point that I bought merchandise of it. I normally don't buy merchandise of video games, but I had to do it for Transistor. And that alone should tell you how much I respect and admire SuperGiant Games' work ethic and the creativity and passion that they pour into the development of their games. So with that in mind, I was certainly excited for their upcoming title, Pyre, which is finally out. It's out there. You can play it on a controller on PC, actually, and I would recommend that you do so, considering how the movement controls play out. Playing with a controller is most beneficial. So Pyre has been a game that has been on my radar for a while before it came out. Ever since Total Biscuit's first impressions video, this game has captured my attention, especially since SuperGiant Games was behind the development of the game in the first place. I couldn't skip on this. And I actually got to try it out earlier this year at PAX East at their massive booth. The developers accommodated me after I requested that I try out the game because I wanted to cover it. And I've had a huge interest in it. And after playing the 30 minutes that they allowed me to play the game for, I was absolutely impressed, and I could not be more excited after getting out of the booth. So now that the game is finally out there, I can talk about it, and I've been really excited to discuss it in great depth. And I would like to give my special thanks to Geekonomicon, one of our beloved channel moderators over on our Twitch channel, for gifting me the game. Very nice of you, sir. Pyre is equally as fantastic as Transistor and Bastion are in terms of music and art. If there's one thing SuperGiant Games excels at, it's marrying both art and music together to create a memorable and long-lasting player experience. And they did it once again with Pyre here, which is a lovely amalgamation of multiple elements from different video game genres. There's lots of exploration to do in Pyre. There's character customization, itemization. There's player choices involved throughout the progression of the game. The main core part of the game, though, is very unique and different. It's a different take from what SuperGiant Games has previously produced. So the main part of the game is kind of like a tactical dodgeball slash Quidditch type deal. You play a team of 3 players, all of which are unique in character development and utility. So you play a team of 3 players against 3 other adversaries, and you have this big celestial orb that lands in the middle of the battlefield, which you have to capture from the hands of your enemies and throw it into their pyre, which is their goal. You have to throw it in their pyre to extinguish it and reduce their health pool to 0 points. And you can see that their health pool is currently at 100 count on the bottom right corner, so that's the adversary's health pool. And so the goal here is to throw the ball into the pyre, all while avoiding the enemy, because in this sports-like dodgeball Quidditch game involving celestial orbs and beings, you can either intercept your enemy while they're carrying the ball, or they can intercept you by either coming into contact with you or casting a line-shaped magical attack at you. They can either banish you, they can quote-unquote banish you from the battlefield for a couple seconds by casting you away with a magical attack, or they can just tackle you by hitting you with their auras, which are the glowy circles that are surrounding them, and each character has a different sized aura that they start off with. So while the number of players is even on every team, every character available within a team provides different utility. Every character has its strengths and weaknesses, and for example, Jadariel here, who is the massive horned, threatening demon-like lady, who I like to deem her as the Pyre version of Brienne of Tarth. She actually has a massive aura, so while she is slow in movement, her offensive capabilities are godly, I shall say. So she can deal, not only can she deal quite a good amount of damage to the enemy Pyre, she can also easily fend off the enemy while they're carrying the ball. On the other hand, the rat-like character here, who I'm now selecting, is a very nimble character with a very insignificant aura, but he's incredibly speedy. So in the early stages of the game, the rat-like character is especially effective in getting around enemies and obstacles. So throughout the game, throughout the entirety of the game, you stumble upon new characters that you add to your party roster, and every single character provides some kind of unique mechanic, right? They all have their own quirks and their weaknesses at the same time, and the weaknesses that they have can usually be improved. They can be worked around by improving their stats, their low stats. So every character shares the same attributes. Every character has 4 different attributes which affect their performance, their overall performance during one of these dodgeball / Quidditch matches. And to improve upon these, the player will have to make certain player choices throughout the game as the party goes through the world, right? Every section of the map, every section of the world map offers new possibilities for the player to upgrade the skills of their characters. And every character can be further improved upon through a mastery system. So every character has a mastery sheet, sort of like a specialization skill set, right? And you can't get every single one of these masteries available, but every mastery provides some kind of new mechanic that will fit every kind of play style. So the masteries out there on the character sheets are available for players that want to customize their play style. It's not so much to make a character overpowered, but it's more so to add flavor to a character's performance in battle. And depending on how a player likes to play video games, you can kind of build the characters that you want to build. And so in that regard, there's a lot of character customization available. Along with that, you have an itemization system that involves talismans, special trinkets that allow you to affect characters' performances and statistics and attributes even better. Characters can only have up to 1 talisman, which is a bit unfortunate, but it just adds more to the customization of every character. So there's different ways you can approach the game and different ways you can customize your character. You can give them a certain item which allows them to perform a specific mechanic, or that adds on to their current attributes. And on another note, every match is a learning experience. So even if you lose a match against a team, the game doesn't actually stop there. Interestingly enough, the game teaches you how to become a better player. And so while you might lose a game against another team of 3 adversaries, you will still gain something out of the match. Admittedly, you'll get way less rewarded than if you were to win the game. But still, I like the fact that the game doesn't actually stop you from progressing even if you lose a dodgeball / Quidditch match. So that's something to be appreciated. In terms of the amount of content there is in the game, there's a lot to do. I mean, there's quite a bit of exploration to do. You go from one area to another, so there's a lot of versatility when it comes to the game's mechanics. It's not overly complex, but it's filled with a lot of life. The more different mechanics you stumble, the more you realize how much this game has to offer. Even if it's not that in-depth in terms of what it has to offer, it still has a wide variety of features. There's a shop for you to look at and to buy items from. There's the world that you venture through. You go to different locations, and you can actually take different paths within the areas. You can make your own choice as to how you want to approach the progression of the game. You can go one route, you can take A or B or C, and every route has something new to offer or something different. Sometimes it'll be a valuable that you'll find along your way. Sometimes it'll be a mini game, or it could be anything, honestly. And in that way, the game has a lot of replayability value because it has something different, and because it has different options to offer. It makes the player want to go back and restart the game from scratch. And with that in mind, the game actually offers you different save slots, so you can always play the game from the beginning if you want to see what you missed or what route you didn't pick. If you wanted to look at the other options and see for yourself what they offered, you can always do that by restarting the game on a different save slot. So that's another characteristic of the game to be appreciated, and it just adds on to the replayability value. The dialogue of the game is quite fantastic. It can be sometimes text heavy, but it's also embellished with very interesting voice acting, which is characterized as very, I would say, mystical. The way that the voice acting is performed is very unusual. In the previous SuperGiant games that the company has produced, the voice acting was filled with English voice acting, right? Characters spoke clear and proper English. In this video game, the voice acting is very creative. It has its own language, and it doesn't overpower the game, so it's very subtle voice acting, which adds on to the dialogue. So the game is not necessarily voice acting heavy, but it's got quite nice voice acting. It's there, but it's not the focal point of the character development. The character development really lies within the dialogue and the player choices available at your disposal as you progress throughout the game. The character design is quite unique itself. I mean, there is no surprise. Again, SuperGiant Games knows how to create a universe, and they know how to embellish a universe by coming up with refreshing character designs. Each character has its own personality, and without even the dialogue, you can even tell a character's overall demeanor and how they present themselves. Right, you've got the girl with the poofy hair here, who's kind of like the carefree person, the character that's carefree and that's somewhat of a lost cause. And then you have the rat-like character with the mustache who's supposed to be the witty and whimsical part of the group, and of course the big old horned lady who's kind of like the protector of the group, who's always looking out for danger. She's always on her heels, and she looks like she's gone through shit. So every character in that regard has some kind of background already expressed throughout their character design. But it gets even more interesting as you progress throughout the game, and as you read the lore and the dialogue. It's something you can easily get into. It is kind of text heavy, but it's not that hard to ingest, even if it is text heavy. I am definitely looking forward to playing more of this game. It's the soundtracks and the art keep pulling me back in, but I think the core mechanics of the game, the main part of the game itself is really interesting. It's a fresh take and something very unusual. It's unlike any game that I've seen. It's got a good mix of sports-like tactical gameplay, and it's all decorated by a beautiful fantasy world. So it kind of reminds me, this game really reminds me, it has hints of like D&D and a little bit of tactics and how the characters interact throughout the battle. It's just a beautiful, this game is a beautiful celebration of the RPG genre, with tidbits of other game elements derived from other genres, like sports games, or I don't know. There's so much to it, and for a game that's only at $20, I would certainly recommend it. So this is Pyre by SuperGiant Games. You guys should definitely pick this one up. Play it on either PC or PlayStation 4 with a controller, and you won't regret it. I definitely promise you that. Thank you for watching my first impressions of Pyre by SuperGiant Games. See you guys around the internet. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time.